I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe indie developers are only going to continue to get bigger and slowly start to steal the focus from AAA games, and I think that'll start to become much more apparent if Sony and Microsoft lighten up a little bit on the approval process and make it possible for games in early access to be put on console and updates to be expedited a little bit. For those of you that don't know, over on Steam, developers can just pump out an update and that's a done deal, versus with Microsoft and Sony, you need about a week beforehand for them to approve it for the game's update to then go through. But what do I bring this up? Well, that's because a couple of days ago, a brand new shooter by the name of Shatterline hit early access over on Steam. And what I think is the coolest aspect about this is the game itself has almost no social media presence whatsoever. They dropped a handful of trailers that really didn't garner that much attention. They do have a Twitter page. I mean, they only tweeted on September 3rd when the game went into early access on the 8th. So I mean, for an indie dev with no publisher, really, how are you going to manage to get a bunch of people aware of your game? Well, through content creators. It seems like most of the publicity that this game has been receiving has been coming from content creators, which I think is really cool. At least to me, you know, to have these guys with virtually no support whatsoever, have a handful of videos be put out on YouTube, and all of a sudden you have lobbies filled with people that are just curious to see what's up with this brand new game that no one's really heard about. So what is Shatterline? Well, it's described as a fast-paced, free-to-play, that part's important, FPS with a roguelike co-op mode. So in other words, you have two primary modes to choose from. That's pretty standard these days, with one being multiplayer, where you play in 6v6 in Team Deathmatch, Conquest, or Escort. Team Deathmatch obviously is pretty straightforward. You just kill the other team and try not to die. Because while 1 and 4 is bad, going 10 and 10 is equally as bad. You're not helping anyone out there. Feeding the other team kills, fucking Sherlock. Conquest is, I guess you can call it a King of the Hill or hardpoint type of mode if you played Call of Duty, where periodically there's a point that pops up on the map and you need to hold it down in order to score points. Escort is probably my favorite one, where each team takes a turn pushing a payload from one side of the map to the other, with the aggressors hitting certain checkpoints, adding more time to the timer. These are the matches that typically take the longest and allows you to go on full-on murder sprees. I was able to break 50 to 80 kills in some games, and obviously it feels great when you're untouchable on a killing spree. But since I already started talking about it, let's focus on the multiplayer right now. When you start up a match, you're brought to this character select screen. Currently in the game, there are 8 operators to choose from, each with their own sets of abilities and equipment to use. While the abilities everyone has are important, I'd say it's very much focused on the gunplay itself. So don't think that some operatives are a pain in the ass. I mean, they are to a point if someone's really good and knows how to use them, but I never hit a point where it was like, damn, they really need to nerf or focus on this one particular person because it's too much to handle. I'd say it more so enhances the experience rather than hinders it. In some cases, when you're coming up with someone that's actually really good with the operative that they're using, knows when to pop their ultimate abilities or even their secondary abilities, it becomes more of a challenge of how to outsmart or get around their strengths rather than, hey, let me hide until their ability runs out. Some characters like Strix and Nasidia, for example, can offer ways to flank or get the drop on someone. With Strix specifically, you can actually kick down doors, opening new pathways for yourself and teammates behind you. She's more of an aggressive playstyle, as her main ability pulls out a fucking death machine. Rissa, on the other hand, can climb up obstacles, get to high vantage points, and one of her abilities actually allows her to go invisible, while her main ability pulls out a one-shot sniper rifle. So she's perfect for players that like to either get up close and personal or full-on flank, get to high ground without really being seen. My personal favorite, though, has to be Malva, hands down. Malva's a support character. She's one of 2 medics in the game. She can pop a drone that heals allies inside the radius, while all damage received by anyone inside of that healing drone's radius is reduced by 20%. As you start playing with each operative, getting kills, gaining, XP during the match, you start leveling them up. And Malva starts off being able to throw out personalized medkits. Initially, only 1 at a time. Eventually, when you level her up, she can throw up to, I believe it's 3. And then when you max her out, you can actually replace the medkits with these little aerosol cans, allowing you to heal everyone within the small radius of that being popped, rather than tossing out individualized medkits to yourself or your teammates. Considering I'm not much of a healer in any game, let alone a shooter, you know damn well I'm huffing that shit myself. She also has a drone that follows her and attacks nearby enemies, which is pretty cool. It's a nice little blend of offensive and defensive capabilities, especially since that drone isn't too much of a pain in the ass if you particularly come up to it. If you're paying attention, you can kill it or destroy it relatively easily. Now, the only downside to this whole operator screen, I get it, I understand, it's for balancing purposes, I'm not really entirely complaining about it. I'm just saying, it doesn't make having someone else beat you to your operative any easier, especially if you're hellbent on maxing one character out or figuring out their best uses. I mean, I guess you can probably figure that out in the shooting range. There is a shooting range in this game where you can test out weapons as well as, I guess, some of the operatives. I have not hopped into it myself because I've been so damn addicted to the multiplayer, but it does suck having someone beat you to your main. Speaking of the shooting range though, there are 25 weapons to choose from in this game with a range of attachments meant specifically for each particular weapon. In order to unlock said attachments, you have to just level the gun up. Not all 25 weapons are available from the jump though. As you see in this screen, there's actually tiers. In order to unlock the next tier or set of weapons, you just have to keep gaining weapon XP. After 6 hours of play, I'm halfway through tier 2. Once I unlock tier 3, then I can use some in-game credits that I've earned to unlock the next weapon that I want, or even unlock more attachment slots for a current weapon I already have. How you acquire these in-game credits though is also by completing tasks in-game, basically in-game challenges. And it's a typical type of stuff. You have challenges that are reset daily, you have challenges that are tied to your operatives, and because this game also has a season pass, you have challenges tied to the weeks throughout the duration of that season pass. And the challenges themselves range in a variety of ways, like completing so many sessions as a particular operative, getting kills with a particular weapon type, or doing things in Expedition, which is a co-op game mode, rather than in multiplayer. So these challenges affect both. And it's a typical type of stuff. You have challenges that are reset daily, you have challenges that are tied to your operatives, and because this game also has a season pass, you have challenges tied to the weeks throughout the duration of that season pass. And the challenges themselves range in a variety of ways, like completing so many sessions as a particular operative, getting kills with a particular weapon type, or doing things in Expedition, which is a co-op game mode, rather than in multiplayer. So these challenges affect both game modes, and the rewards are not only XP and the credits that we talked about in terms of unlocking weapons and more attachment slots, but you can also in some cases get blueprints. Blueprints are another form of this game's currency, which is probably one of the biggest red flags of this game, because you need 450 blueprints in order to craft a modification. A modification then gives you a random cosmetic for any of the 25 weapons in the game, and the cosmetics actually have stats tied to them. And some of them are ridiculous. The Zenith, for example, this game's version of an AK-47, has a modification that has it where all bullets that hit a target give a small damage area of effect. So everyone you hit that's clustered, or an enemy that's too close to someone that you're actually shooting at, will also take damage. And since you can add attachments with the mods, you can have some nasty weapon loadouts here. Like imagine having this modification with cordite powder bullets. Cordite powder bullets are regular attachments that knock back and disorientate enemies off continuous hits. Now, not only are you knocking back and slowing him down, but thanks to the modification, you're hitting everyone around him with additional hits without actually seeing them directly. Or even the mod for the fire spray. On reload, you can restore health based off the amount of enemies killed from the previous mag, which in turn determines how much health you actually get back. It sounds great on one hand, because it sounds like it's something that really does reward skilled players, but on the other hand, it begs the question, is it really balanced for everyone else, considering there is an RNG element to it? As of right now, there is no current way to buy any blueprints or buy any of these modifications. You really do have to just grind your way out with these blueprints, and then just pray you get something good or something that you would use yourself. But as far as longevity goes, I don't know if this is going to be something that's good for new coming players, someone that really is just trying to dip their toes into this game, see what's up, and now you have someone that's running around with weapon modifications and maxed out guns. Especially since in these game modes, map knowledge is very important, especially with how the operatives work themselves. But let's talk about co-op, Expedition. I don't know how big of a role this is eventually going to play. As of right now, instead of 6 players, you're dropped into procedurally generated world with 2 other people. You start off with the same thing as multiplayer. You hit this character select screen, the 3 of you got to pick your operative. Just like in multiplayer, you do have your own skill set, although in order to gain access to your secondary abilities, like for instance Malva, in order to get her medkits or aerosol cans, you have to access these supply drops. Basically fight over these supply drops. This is how you get new weapons, this is how you get your gear, this is how you can actually lower some of the modifiers that are active in this game mode. Because the way that this game mode works is, the longer you're inside of it, the higher the contamination, and the higher the contamination, the more the game is going to start giving you modifiers that are going to make it much more difficult for you to succeed at the task that you're given. I had one match where the first modifier was basically, it was raining meteors and you got to constantly be on the move and be aware of where they were falling. And then the second modifier was basically the birds would dive bomb and hit us with explosives. They're basically kamikazing us. Some supply drops allow you to drop the modifiers a little bit, making it easier, resetting the difficulty to a degree, which is honestly kind of cool. I think the modifiers themselves made it much more interesting. But you're dropped into this world and you have to basically complete these tasks. The more tasks you complete, the more XP and the more more blueprints you'll be given. But the flip side is the more tasks you complete, and obviously, again, the more time you spend inside of it, the more difficult it's going to become. What's interesting too, all the progress you make in Expedition as well as multiplayer is shared. So in this match, I was playing with the sniper rifle. I was out actually very actively upgrading it, gaining all this XP from getting all these free kills. So that way, when I did go over into multiplayer, my gun was closer to being maxed out. I didn't have to struggle inside multiplayer to get specific attachments because I was already going on major killing sprees in Expedition. The XP I was earning was also contributing to leveling up the operative that I was playing as. My only thing is, I do like this because when you're playing in multiplayer, it does feel like a little too much of a grind at times when it comes to unlocking the next tier of weapons or even leveling up the guns themselves. So when you're thrown into Expedition where you have these literal hordes of AIs to just mow down, it does expedite that process, but I don't think it's to a point where it becomes unfair or a cheesy way to bypass the grind that multiplayer would bestow on you. I just wish that when it came to co-op though, we can identify what we're going to be getting from the supply drops. For example, you know, one supply drop is visibly different. It'll say, okay, it has some equipment or it has some gameplay modifiers that can benefit you, because there are passive buffs as well. I had a passive buff where if I didn't use my secondary for a certain amount of time, the next couple bullets out of my secondary then become explosive, resetting some of the progress of the contamination zone. Seeing the supply drop visibly different like that, I think would be nice. And then you have another supply drop where it has weapons, because it did kind of bug me that the only way to get your guns are from these supply drops, and then you in some cases have to decide, alright, am I going to get this equipment or am I going to get a better gun, or am I cool with what I have now, just level it up, throw some attachments on it, which the attachments you have equipped do show up in Expedition, which is pretty cool. I would also like it to have some point where it shows you the XP difference between Expedition and multiplayer. You know, before you start up an Expedition match, it says, hey, these are the values of how much XP you're getting per kill towards your operative, towards your weapon XP, and this is what it looks like in multiplayer. I think that's stuff that'll greatly benefit this game, the experience, and how you can judge which game mode to play based off what exactly you're going for, I guess, in terms of leveling a particular weapon or a particular operative up. I would also love to see a combat record. I get it, this game is in beta, it just hit early access, but there are medals, and when you're playing a match, you can see your kill death ratio. So I personally would love to really see your success rate and how many times you can extract from an Expedition, because that's the way you can properly end a game. Every time you complete an objective, you're given an opportunity to vote with everyone in your team on whether you guys want to extract or not. If you guys do, then you got to get to the extraction zone, clear it out, and then leave. So seeing your success rate, seeing how many kills you normally get in Expedition, seeing what your kill death ratio and how many kills you have with weapons in multiplayer, I think would be a nice quality of life improvement, especially because you have all these medals that you're constantly earning. It would be nice to be able to keep track of that stuff. Or even a scoreboard, a leaderboard, kill death ratio, how active people are with completing objectives in multiplayer, revives the amount of time spent with a particular operative, you know, stuff like that to really boost up a little bit of that competitive side. But all in all, for a game that just hit early access, it's a game that I would highly recommend you guys go out and give it a shot. Like I said earlier, it's free to play. I'm hoping that as time goes on, people start supporting it a little bit more. We'll start seeing some more maps, some quality of life improvements, hopefully some suggestions that I've made for today. But let me know what you guys think. Have you guys heard of or played Shatterline? Is this your first time hearing of it? What do you guys think about it? Is there any questions that you have? Let's talk down in the comment section below. Like always, in case you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, link is down in the pinned comment if you're looking for people to play Shatterline. You know, maybe roll with a full squad of 5 or 6 people, or even contact me directly. Feel free to join. I'd love to see you there. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see y'all later.